and thanks to Shelf Life Books for continuing to be our online co-host. We hope to one day be back doing in-person events with them at the store, but until then, we're happy to do online events with them as well. Thanks everyone for coming. This is Singalingia number 180, if you can believe it. We have 4 excellent poets for you this evening, and our first poet is Josephine LoRe. Her words have been read on stage in global Zoom rooms, put to music, danced, integrated into art, and published in 10 countries and 4 languages. She has 2 collections, Unity and the Calgary Herald bestseller, The Cowichan Series, and she's a member of the League of Canadian Poets, the Writers Guild of Alberta, and several online reading communities. Josephine has taught poetry workshops through the Alexander Writers Center Society, When Words Collide, and the inaugural Wine Country Writers Festival. Poetry has been Josephine's COVID antidote, so please welcome Josephine LoRe.
Thanks very much. Thank you, David and June, and thank you, Kirk, for the invitation to read with Single Onion. Choosing poems is a little bit like being asked which of your children is your favorite, so I had a hard time. I kept changing my mind, and I try to put together something that's cohesive and take you on a bit of a journey of what my writing has been like for the past year or 2 years. So I'd like to start with one. It's a poem for 2 voices, and it's called How to Read a Poem. Lay the poem upon its back on the stainless surface, splay it flat. If it reverts to incipience, affix the limbs securely, aligning cardinal points. Or with a pestle, crush it into a fine white powder, and with rolled hundreds, let the crystalline images explode within the confines of your mind. Trace the scalpel down the meridian, delicately fold back thick layers of skin, expose the viscera, or sprinkle its granulated colors onto the icing of red velvet, devour it sans fourchette. Remove the organs with care, placing each into a glass jar, label and arrange alphabetically on a shelf. Or combine with ethanol and water, adding a base note of patchouli, sandalwood, cedar, and musk. Tap out the rhythms with an ebony baton, plot onto staff paper in perfect 3/4 time, or play it on the cello, the shamisen, using the hirajoshi scale, dodecaphon. Listen to the sonorities of each vowel, assign a positive value to the soft, a negative to the strident, and plot on a Cartesian graph, x-axis y, 0 at the core. Or allow the words to dehydrate in the sun, then stir into gin or vodka, swirl and savor, swallow, pirouette. Develop a color-coded system of symbols to trace the etymology, or fold into origami butterflies, recline in verdant field, release them into breeze, allowing them to sublimate under hot sun and rain down upon the earth their benediction. Parse the poem, circle the verbs, consider the tense of each clause, or transform into bumblebee and collect pollen from each trembling sibilance, assonance, consonants. Determine the atomic weight of each combination of letters according to the elements of the periodic table, or simply raise the golden chalice to quivering lips and allow ambrosial nectar to drip down your chin. The reading tonight is dedicated to Chinook words, and I have a poem in which I talk about the Chinook and a corresponding wind that blows in Sicily. That's where my family comes from, and that wind is called Scirocco. The poem is called Lo Vento. Lo Vento means the wind. At the edge of this prairie, where foothills snuggle up to peaks, winds blow east, snow eater, say the Salish, winter reprieve, driving mercury from 20 below to 13 above in a day. Our city duveyed, bright sky blue under silver arc cloud, Chinook. while there, in a land all but lost in time, an island in the middle of the sea, in the middle of the world, winds blow north across Saharan immensity, magnifying summer heat, a sheet of red sand gathering, falling like blood across the face of my dreams. Scirocco. I'm going to switch now to some pandemic poems. A Moment in Pandemic. The reverence of observation, stillness, all else dissipates. Time curls up upon my lap. Perhaps this will save us. Chickadee and spruce, old snow retracting at the speed of glacier. A century ago, a mountain morning, I sat on summit, chill of first lights, elk resounding through the valley, the sound echoing through my chest. I felt what it is to be truly alive. I seek beauty in the everyday, a clutch of hens and chicks pinkening on lawn, the sky reflected in a sheet of ice. I prepare lessons and see my students in boxes on the screen. My daughter asked, is it today or tomorrow? These constructs, what do they mean? Fewer pedestrians, many averted as if COVID could be transmitted through the vulnerability of eyes. The unpredictability of this plague. I raise a gloved hand and wave regally to motorists. Some wave back. Tonight, I read a bedtime tale to my nephew in Toronto. He laughed and laughed at the fierce bad rabbit and the man with the gun. I put my lips to the glass, kissed him goodnight, 4,000 kilometers away. His hair still damp from the bath. Does anyone else miss Deerfoot traffic? You could have cake for breakfast, be drunk before noon, walk the block in your pajamas, eat ice cream from the tub, in the tub. Oh, and the civil disobedience. I cross on the red, do 40 in a school zone, dream of kissing strangers full on the lips, of riding a horse through the dead center of town. That was an early pandemic poem. I'd like to share another pandemic poem now. Thank you. And this one is called Tools. My father too used tools. Young, he apprenticed to a shoemaker because only the father and the eldest could work the sulfur mine, and he was the second. The third, really, the second having died before my father was born. My father was given his dead brother's name. I have the wooden forms in my closet, black, extendable Geppetto feet on which to cobble shoes. But shoemaking was not my father's destiny. He traveled to England first, learned to say aluminium so you could hear the final I. When I was a child, people asked why I spoke with a British accent. Then to Belgium to work the mines, but there was a collapse, a tragedy at Charleroi, 262 migrants trapped, killed, many of them Italian, and my mother, seed of first child in her belly, pleaded my father to leave. From Le Havre, they crossed the Atlantic on La Flandre, like those who had fled the potato famine, and that time the British took land from the Scots for sheep pasture, the displaced, the dispossessed. In Canada, my father worked many jobs, an unskilled man with little knowledge of a language and even less of the laws. He ended up a carpenter, like the father of Christ, smelled of sawdust, hands rough, but never raised. Behind his ear, a pencil, not round, but flattened. It did not fit the sharpener, so instead he used a knife to create a chiseled edge while I watched. Nails and loose change in his pockets, his shoulders broad as his smile. My father built things, fixed things, measured things, and having no sons, he worked alone, while we sisters learned to cook and clean, to pray the rosary and darn, embroider flowers and feathers in silken colors, to be obedient above all. I would slink off to the garage to help my father by passing him the tools. I learned all their names: lo marteggio, the hammer; la raspa, the file; lo giravete, the screwdriver; la sega, la pinza, la chiave inglese, the wrench, whose words literally mean the English key. And that one name whose syllables elude me, the planer, which smoothed wood, creating curlicues out of tree. Oh, and that little silver heart-shaped box which fits the palm, its powder magic blue, to mark a plumb line. I would slink to the garage, avoid the cloister of the house as willingly as I would slink into a book. What are my tools now? Computer, like the coiled cord of a telephone that stretches across this continent and beyond to connect family. We all under house arrest. The charge to remain healthy, to avoid the symptomatic, the asymptomatic. My tools, memory and language, my tools. I just have to move the cats. I'm going to change tone now and get a little bit steamy. This one is called Sapient. We are sapient, we are sentient. We allow our eyes, our words, our hands, our mouths to speak. We listen with our ears, our souls, our mind, our spirit, and discover that connection which surpasses definition, the body of words inadequate, the words of the body exquisite. We are magnet to metal, candle to flame. We are smiles that overflow boundaries of lips, eyes to hands, mouths to hearts, to breath that beats. Your boundaries overflowing onto my boundaries until we are but one unmapped country, one sapient, sentient, sacred space. The next one is called Wild Sky. You are electrons, protons. I am sparking off the sun. You are escaping sun's gravity. I am thrown out of atmosphere by rotation. You are hurtling towards Earth. I am thinner at polar caps. You are colliding with my atmosphere. I am igniting into color, into dance. Most of the particles deflected by Earth's atmosphere, but when you kiss me, you become my oxygen. You are lights dancing. I am wild sky. And the next one in this series is called Oblivion, and it starts with an epi. I always get it mixed up between epigraph and epitaph, but whatever that is, a few lines from Ella Zeltzerman, who I met through the stroll. I whisper into your ear so you hear and do not hear, and my poem is called Oblivion. I whisper in your ear so you hear and do not hear. Our rhythms fill the pauses in our breath. Rhyme entwines us like a villanelle. In the ruby light of oil lamp, I stand before you loosely, concealed only by the shimmer of a veil. The curves of my country, the rise and the dip and the long, slow valley, where the weight and the warmth of your hand once summoned me from sleep. I pour into your glass sweet drops of lethe. We shed our skin and swim beneath the substance of a dream. I'm going to stick with dream now. And read Dreams of the Dead. My grandmother is a hydrangea, petals pressed close. She opens in blue splendor. My grandfather, a bull trout, slow moving, waters murky. And what of Alex? In one dream, the Ficus benjaminus turns to butterflies. His lopsided smile, his bangs flipped to one side, thoughts deep. Wings open into poetry. In another dream, beetles and roaches cover the floor. And this morning, lashes fall as I rub sleep from my eyes. I can no longer see myself in the glass. Forget-me-nots. And I'm not sure how I'm doing for time. This is a longish one, and if I could do a short one after this one, would that be okay, David? Yeah, okay. Forget-me-nots. Forget not the haunting of Rezhnikov, tower stark against tipped bowl of stars. Sidewalk, diamond brilliant in winter, untouchable beauty afar. Forget not pre-matinal meander in the ivy blue misting of France. La Campagne, bien avant l'aube, walking the Roman-built road. Forget not the drunkenness of delights, l'insouciance, and how right we were then, how right. My waist in the space of your two open hands. I shall sit on the rocks by the water and comb out my long graying hair. You might call me Rhiannon or Psyche, but you would be mistaken, for I am none of those. I am all. With my silent song shall I summon sailors, soldiers to my door, watch them collide unencumbered on the sharp precipice of my shore. I shall pick up shells one by one, listen for lost echo of love. I shall open the oyster, drink deep the elixir, savor each pearl on my tongue. Forget me not. I shall ride the camel in cold nights across caravan of sand. I shall bathe in moon's blue glow, singe your eyes, burn your hand. I shall pet the memory of each lover, stroke each tender head, watch the flick of tail, push each pad to see emerge and then retract the fatal claw. Forget not the entanglement of sheet and limb, the strike of match, the salt of body in heat. Forget not the clamor of heart unleashed, burst of amber and green, in purple black sky yet unseen. Forget me not. I shall pour oil into the canal of your ear as you twist and you turn in tempestuous sleep. I shall crouch and whisper my unspeakable name into the crevice of night. Forget me not. And the last poem I'd like to share, thank you. I wrote this on the occasion of my son becoming engaged. The Rooftop. You squeezed the metal frame of the screen, slipped out open window, lay on asphalt shingles to look up at the scattering of stars, the din of Deerfoot traffic, incessant. I only found out later. That's how things went when you were kids, the secrets you held to your chest, the barriers transgressed, the dreams you dreamt unbeknownst to me. I should have birthed you in the forest under bough of ancient cedar. I should have licked from you the vernix, planted your placenta in the cradle of the land. You hear the full moon howl while you are sleeping, are unafraid of spider, unafraid of snake. You paddle on a glass smooth lake at nightfall. And when you knelt to ask your girl to be your wife, It was in the silence of the snow, in the witness of the mountain. A boy, you climbed onto the rooftop to sleep under the stars. You stitched them one by one to glimmer in the fabric of your life. Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
Thanks so much, Josephine. That was really fantastic. I enjoyed that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Poet is Tim Murphy. Tim is the current Poet Laureate of Canmore, Alberta, and the Chief Mentor for WritingForums.com. He grew up in North Carolina, graduated from Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida, and immigrated to Canada in 1977, where he worked as a journalist and poetry editor at Axiom Magazine in Halifax. Then went into construction after his first child was born in 1978. Tim is a master carpenter and has been building homes for 40 years. He has published poetry and short fiction in Axiom Magazine, Grain, Geist, the Antigonish Review, Eckerd Review, Freefall Magazine, BlueSky Poetry Magazine, Light Journal of Poetry and Photography, Spillwords Press, Flashes.com, as well as several anthologies. His poetry has been translated into Greek, Dutch, and Chinese. He is the author of one chapbook, Up Cape Fear, which I saw they do have at Shelf Life Books, so that's excellent, with another chapbook currently in production titled The Book of Jake. So please welcome Tim Murphy. I'll just unmute you here.
Thank you, David, and thanks for Single Onion inviting me to read. I don't have any Chinook poems tonight. My dad passed away 13 years ago this month, and something about his passing unlocked something in me creatively, and I've been writing poetry furiously ever since. I have no idea how many I've written, but a good many of them are about my dad and my relationship with him. And I come to understand that that's part of my task for writing poetry, is to try to understand that relationship. And this first poem I'm going to read you is one of those. It has an odd title. The title is After the Colossus by Sylvia Plath. I shall never get you entirely out of my teeth. Zipped and buckled, incisors replaced, hog-jowl drawl and collard greens proceed from your great mustache. Chickens peck at your splintered floor. You mouthpiece for Untermensch, a bare student in your back seat. Ragged skin stacked in your closet. 12 years now, I've been picking your whiskers from my beer. Standing on my tiptoes with commas and erasers, I wobble like a sailor at dawn over the light years from your hairline and push the greasy horn rims up your immense nose bridge. A rainy sky over Heidelberg, her castle keep collapsed into the bombed out moat, the Roman bridge and Philosophenweg winding through the wild and wizened berries to the hilltop ruins where your true bones lie. It would take more than a bombing raid to decorate your living room. Nights, I kneel beyond the blast zone of your arsenal, outside the radiation path, beyond the salt and pepper fire-swept main. Let me count the stars around your manifest, the moons behind the shadow where you sleep. My days are stapled to your tongue. At 2 a.m., I listen for the poetry you lied about inside your darkest hour. The title of the next poem is Conspiracy, and it refers to ravens. A group of ravens is called a conspiracy of ravens. And it's interesting, it's not intentional, but it's interesting, the media hubbub around the word conspiracy now, but it's interesting. Conspiracy. You start to wonder if you might be dangerous. How many incendiary orbits you've survived. How many furious re-entries through bodies burning in dramatic gestures. You start to wonder if your victories were losses, and your losses might be gathering on both sides of the river for a moment of silence. One raven flies, two return. The unbearable attention burns the back of your eyes. How did your brain get into your hand? Survival comes down to the sound of strings and an understanding of stars, how you glide silently from womb to womb within dark matter. All you need is a drop of blood and the heart of a bee. The gathered ravens blink through ash rain. They all fly hungry at once. The next poem is called A Reckoning. It's a sonnet. I am here, but I have never been here. Not in these shoes, not with this given name. I have 1,000 names. Each one I bear goes off alone to live its life and tame its own beasts till the day the parlor door swings open wide and he walks in, completely recognizable, and for a moment tries to tell us where he's been. But everyone in the room's confused. The mirror hazes over with hoarfrost. The man who holds the pen tries not to lose himself when he suspects that he's been crossed by some imposter I thought I had set free. I told the judge the bastard wasn't me. About 6 months ago, I was just cruising poetry and I found a site called Cadrelore, or a publication called Cadrelore. So I looked into it and they only publish poems in the form of a Cadrelore. So I looked into what a Cadrelore is and I wrote a couple and I sent them this one and they liked it. And they've told me it's been shortlisted, and that's the last I heard of them. A Cadrelore has 5 numbered stanzas, which are seemingly unrelated until you come to the last stanza, and then it's supposed to make sense. So this is called Between Wars. 1. Page 98 to be exact. A yellowed envelope slips out and spills photographs from after the war. The future looks good in black and white. Mama dressed for jive. Papa with his cigarette, his whole short life to live. Faded corners curled in sepia. 2. We look for signs to prove we have entered another country. Something foreign, Edelweiss or tinsel money. We should have left a note. We turn the radio on and listen to static, thinking there's a voice, and we sing along until we sound like the Grateful Dead. 3. I took the boy and walked around back to the big door and rang the bell, wondering if she had dyed her hair. The door swung open with oaky chill, and I said, "Hello there," like we were old friends. She shot me through with steel and pulled the boy in with a gavel's boom. 4. No wonder bodies burn in riot. Littered streets fill overnight with ash. Shattered crystal and jade monkeys drag from storefronts under siren neon. Fire bubbling from manholes at Hell's Gate. Shadows dart through dirty darkness like rats on the run. 5. I brush pallid stars into the night sky, paying close attention to distance. We can never get it back, I say. You'd miss it if you didn't have the love. We weren't born to forget. We were just born like spring rain flows through our bodies. More stars, I say, more stars. This poem is called Dark Places. Dark places are all the same in different ways. The shrouded corner looks safe from the midnight bridge. The bridge looks safe from a bottomless morning. Morning looks like harbor from the bones of a cornered shadow. Jokers have told me the funniest darkness is unbearable. And mourners have told me that death is an elaborate joke that never sees you coming. Dark places talk to each other in whispered tones to share their secrets about what it means to turn out the lights. Great love and great suffering are the same in different ways. One is a star-studded sky. One is moonless ocean. Both make you small. Both set you free. Neither can buy you lunch. Lucky. I should not be here. Peril floats a black paper box. Dead cats pile up out back. The trail is cold, my courage old. I was lucky on the roof, lucky in the fall, lucky in the shootout, lucky in the brawl. Dust settles on an unmade bed. The faucet drips from dawn to dusk. Lime crumbles from the smokeless flue. Curtains flutter. The sheriff stutters. I was lucky with the man, lucky on the run, lucky with the ladies, lucky with the gun. I happened on a well-set table, took the spoon and left the fork. It made no difference whatsoever. The setting's still there, and I am at large. Lucky in the spin, lucky in the crash, lucky for the time of year, lucky with the latch. A movie's playing day and night, an empty theater, black and white. Wind whistles through the exit sign, popcorn scattered on the floor. I was lucky on the phone, lucky in the street, lucky when my hands slipped, lucky on my feet. For one who won't believe in luck, doesn't count what should have been. It's lucky who grow old, and the lucky always win. I was lucky at the start, lucky in the end, lucky for the time of day, lucky for my skin. Okay, this is the last poem I'm going to read you. And this is from a series of dragon poems I've been writing. I started writing these at the beginning of the pandemic. They have nothing to do with the pandemic, but there is an uncanny parallel. This is called Dragon as Contemporary Artist. Dragon will paint your portrait anytime, from photograph or selfie. Every hair in place and pouting lips. You can look like Cleopatra if you want, or Sting or Marilyn Monroe, but you will always know it's you. It makes the perfect wedding gift or Christmas card. And if you have some 20,000 followers, your image will be everywhere as the work of art you truly are. Dragon is also the world's best poet, knowing all the inside outs of words, all the secret mumblings. They recite the alphabets in glamorous reverse for languages alive and dead. They know the secret names of things, all the ancient incantations, all the coolest homeboy phrases, how to turn salt water into wine, moldy bread into fish, cryptocurrency to dreams, and dreams you think you might have had into life-affirming memories on Instagram. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tim. Thanks for joining us. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you all.
And before we get to our final poet this evening, I just have a few thank yous that I want to send out. We want to say thanks to the Calgary Arts Development for supporting the Single Onion, as well as the Canada Council for the Arts, the League of Canadian Poets, the Writers Guild of Alberta, and Shelf Life Books. We really do appreciate all the support that they give us, and we hope to be back to in-person readings when it's safe to do so, but we're happy that we can continue joining together online like this. You can find out more about the Single Onion at our website, singleonion.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and we've got an email list that you can sign up for. Our next event is going to be February 17th, and that is a special celebration for Black History Month, so I hope you'll join us for that one. And our final poet this evening is Sabrina Samuel, also known as Auntie Sabby. She resides on Treaties 6 and 7 in Red Deer and immigrated to the village of Consort, Alberta 40 years ago from Pakistan. She reunited with the Drunken Poets Society through the pandemic and found her voice in anthologies like YYC Pop, Pandemic Poems, In Other Worlds, and most recently the Words Fest Quaranzine. Her first poetry chapbook, She Was, launched in support of the Central Alberta Sexual Assault Center, and I noticed that Shelf Life Books does have a copy of that, which is fantastic. And her Seroptimist Club organized a reading in support of the Period Promise for Gender Equity. Sabrina launched an online mental health community, Surrender Living, and was selected by the Writers Union of Canada for BIPOC Writers Connect to provide mentorship for her first memoir. So please welcome Sabrina Samuel.
Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can.
Great. I just wanted to say hello. Since a lot of you don't know me, I'm Sabrina. Pronouns are she and her, and I'm from Treaty 6 and 7, Red Deer. And I just wanted to quickly say thank you for having me. I'm definitely a little bit of a different voice, given that I have spent a lot of my life as what would be considered outside of the canon, and yeah, I don't know. I guess with that I should just read this. The poems that I've selected to share with you tonight are actually not super political or problematic. I don't think. Actually, the second one might be for you, but I'm a brown skinned girl and from southern Alberta, big boned, and so that's my trigger warning to you. Big words. No malapropisms were harmed in the making of this poem. If you use words that make you sound arrogant to the ordinary, they get said a few more times. Big words don't have to sit around prettily the way porcelain dolls you're not allowed to play with do. Those words, the big ones that are English but never spoken by the type of people that make fun of ESL speakers, those words are naturally selected to find friends and foe. They require you experience them in a measured fashion that others can see they're special. The way you cook with saffron or pay extra to stand in the line marked VIP. If you feel totally ordinary or burdensome or irrelevant, a thick, daring stroke of orange off a boring blank tongue can save or kill a conversation. Orange is fully welcome in a world full of green. Monochromatic chaos deserves a bright surprise. Do you wonder who thought a monosyllabic bit of breath with just 3 arranged letters could capture all those words? So this next poem, I guess from the perspective of a survivor, there's always the thing about naming names. It's a bit problematic, yeah. And so this poem plays with that idea while naming names, but in a kind of weird way. And I wanted to just shout out Sherry D. Thank you for believing in me and including me and putting up with a lot of shit from me. So here it is. Sherry D is mad at me and I'm not sure what to do about it. It's hard to Sidney Poitier out to people with love. The artistic temperament is real. Redheads all over Alberta like their job of having to deal with it. The Betty White world smiles with both sets. Don't forget the joy, sis. My career makes me want to gulp down a Shelley Switzer and suck the pimento from the toothpicked olives. Writers look rumpled and don't brush their hair for interviews. Poets speak with black and white grayness. Fuck in opalescent transparency. Think in technicolor. Live in gray to matter. Generational tension is knowing kilometers are the standard measurement, not Kirk miles. I want a Stephen Dovett's words without the latex sounds. Joy can be pumped out of a band with only one member. At the end of writing life as a single checker piece, reach the back of the board exactly where the queen sits, hoisted work in hand, screaming, "King me, Larry." And you're very sophisticated poets here in the group are probably not going to like this one. It's called A Poem About Tits. Perky tits, prickly tits, lopsided tits, mastected tits, lactating tits, saggy tits. That's the tits. Don't freeze your tits off. Show me your tits. Fake tits, full tits, little tits, white tits, black tits, boy tits. Sorry to sound like a baby, but I'm getting hungry, all this talk about lunch. My poems are kind of short, so I only have one more. And thank you again, everyone, for having me. It's a real joy to be in the company of such prolific minds and people who love words. This poem actually isn't finished, but oh well. Bull in a bookshop. People walk around this bookshop like they're in church, reverent worshippers of verse. They are noticers, introspective types whose friends live in pages and take them out of this store and street and city and province and country and cosmos. They are expert at reading and whispering and going unnoticed as they jaunt through the forest of books, swinging from cover to cover. I like the way they say hello to books, the way they stare at the cover or flip it before opening it. An ecosystem of thought. Not done yet, but that is coming. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Sabrina. I'm really glad you could join us. That was great. And I want to say thanks to all our readers and poets this evening. It's really nice to see everyone. I always feel more inspired for my own poetry and after events like this, so this is really great. And I want to give a special thanks to Kirk Miles of the Single Onion Board for organizing this particular event. And yeah, he's done so much for the Single Onion over the years. He's an original Single Onion, so that's a long time to be part of the part of the board. And I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. It was really nice to have such a great great audience with us. And thanks to Shelf Life Books for being our online co-host. And you can check out their website and of course go to the store to find books by all our readers this evening. And yeah, I think that's it for me. Thanks so much.
Thanks, David.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Poets.